This is the Louie T Network. Hey, either you're outside or you're
in the lab room.
Who else could it be but me, your mate, Louie T? Welcome, you are in the lab room. Of course, I am your host, Luke. Thank you for joining me. Week number 16 in the National Football League. Miami Dolphins at home taking on the Minnesota Vikings. I told you that this was the most evenly matched game, to me, of Week 16. I mean, I looked at this game and I said, you got the 7-7 Dolphins fighting for their playoff lives, taking on the 6-8 Minnesota Vikings. Vikings trying to get to 500 on the season. Not in playoff contention, but this team is playing arguably, and to me, it's really not up for debate, but arguably their best football of the season. This was a fun game to watch. And even though the Dolphins came into the game with slim playoff hopes, they needed a lot of things to happen for them to even be alive after this week. The first thing they had to do was win. And all you can do is take care of what you can take care of at this point in the season. Dolphins had a prime opportunity to put themselves in the playoff discussion with the win over Baltimore 2 weeks ago. They didn't get it done. And after that game, you kind of knew that this season wasn't going to be a postseason one. But hey, you still got a chance, so you got to go out and you got to handle your business if you are the Miami Dolphins. So this was a game that you needed to win at home versus a sub-500 team. Even though they're playing their best football of the season and you can't sleep on the Vikings, you still need to go out and win this game. So let's jump into this one quickly. This was a back-and-forth affair. Vikings jumped out on top early, however, as the Dolphins struggled a little bit offensively. And luckily for Tannehill that Harrison Smith didn't catch that first interception, or this could have gotten out of hand maybe a little sooner than it did, but Harrison Smith did make a play. And the first thing that you see early in this game is that Matt Asiata, man, is this dude a beast. He's a man. He's a grown man, and he runs tough and hard. And if the yardage is there, he's going to get it. And he was able to barrel his way into the end zone to get the scoring started in this game at 7-0. Then Harrison Smith deflects a pass that Tannehill is trying to throw as he's blitzing and is able to pick it off after dropping an easy one earlier in the game. So they're able to take that. And Teddy Bridgewater, let's talk about Ted right now. When he was at his best at Louisville, which was 2 years ago, and everybody thought that he might come out. Remember that year when they won the bowl game versus Miami and his stock was at its peak? Everybody was talking about him being the #1 pick in the draft the following year. And there were all these things that people named that he did well. And I think the prevailing thought the next year when, maybe the season didn't go as well as people hoped it would, and everybody started to look for that dark horse candidate to be the #1 selection. Blake Bortles came off the pace and kind of overtook him as the lead dog. And it was basically, what was your flavor? You had Johnny Manziel out there. You had Blake Bortles. Derek Carr started to emerge. What was your flavor? What was the guy that you were looking for? He didn't work out at the combine. He didn't have a great pro day. But all of the things that we said about Teddy Bridgewater coming into the draft, that he was the most NFL-ready quarterback, that his short passing game was second to none in this draft, and that if he could just throw the deep ball, this kid had everything you were looking for. His poise, he was smart, his moxie in the pocket, everything. You're seeing it now, and I'm going to tell you this right now. You can look at the stats, you can sit here and compare and contrast with some of the other guys that are rookies at the quarterback position. Nobody is having a better rookie campaign than Teddy Bridgewater at the quarterback position. No one has gotten better from start one to start whatever this is for Teddy Bridgewater than Teddy Bridgewater. Now, that being said, we all said that his ceiling was not as high as some of the other quarterbacks. His ceiling is not as high as Blake Bortles. I don't think his ceiling is as high as Derek Carr's is. However, if you're looking for a steady Eddie quarterback, you're looking for as steady a quarterback as you can get in this league, especially from that draft class, you won't find one better and more steady and consistent than Teddy Bridgewater, and you're starting to see that right now. The thing that has impressed me the most with him is his mobility, because again, he did not run at Louisville. The thing that he wanted to do was run to set up the pass. In the NFL, he has shown more mobility than he ever did in college to me. And the fact that he's able to elude rushers, remain calm in the pocket, still keep his eyes down the field, and run when necessary and get down and protect himself has shown a lot more than I thought he had in the arsenal. This kid can throw the football with the best of them, and when he's accurate, and the throw that he had to Greg Jennings in this game for the second touchdown to make it 14-0, thing of beauty. And that play to me shows every single attribute that he possesses right now that some of the other young quarterbacks lack. There was pressure on the play. He needed to step up and avoid the pressure, but yet keep his eyes down the field on his target and then deliver a ball that was catchable so that his receiver could not only catch it, but get up the field and get into the end zone. And the ball was so soft and supple that Greg Jennings, all he had to do was put his hands out there and the ball just fell into his arms as he walked into the end zone. You got accuracy, you got pocket poise, you got pocket presence, and you got the ability to ignore the trash around you and deliver a catchable and accurate football. That to me was the epitome of what Teddy Bridgewater is as a quarterback. And moving forward, there was a play, I want to say on the first drive of the game for the Vikings, where literally he jumps out of a sack, steps up in the pocket, and I don't remember if he actually threw the football for a completion or ran for about 4 or 5 yards. It doesn't matter. He avoided an 8-yard sack and made a positive play out. Even if it's an incompletion, to avoid a sack the way that he did, literally jumping out of a sack with 2 guys converging on him. Teddy Bridgewater is the real deal, folks. And this Vikings team, there was one point in the season where I asked myself, what is the end game for the Vikings? What are they looking to do? Who are they as a football team? I now know what this team is because Teddy Bridgewater has taken control and command of their football team as their leader. I like the direction this team is going in. They're going to be a team to contend with for years to come if this defense continues to play. And if they get a little bit more talent around Teddy Bridgewater, this is going to be a dangerous football team in Minnesota. That said, it's 14-0 after the Greg Jennings touchdown. And if you're Miami, you're saying to yourself, all right, look, I know this is what I was saying. Come on, Miami. I know that you probably aren't going to make it to the postseason because you need Baltimore and Pittsburgh to lose just to have a shot in Week 17. That doesn't matter. You need to finish this season on a high note. I need you to finish over 500. I can't have you at 8-8 this year. Gotta have you at 9-7. I need you to be able to look up at the standings and say, you know what? Next year we're gonna be 10-6. Next year we're gonna be 11-5, and we're gonna make the postseason. And the way to do that is build off of this year. And so you can't lose this game in Minnesota. Even though Minnesota, I just said they're playing their best football of the season, you can't lose this game in Minnesota. And so they got on their horse, and the offense picked it up. They go down the field. They get in the end zone. I've talked about Lamar Miller. I like Lamar Miller, man. I don't think a lot of people realize it's Miller time in Miami, and he's catching the football, he's rushing the football, he's getting the tough yards. Like I said, the only thing I want to see from Lamar Miller moving forward is making that last defender miss and using that speed to get into the secondary and start winning some foot races and having these big chunk plays. I want to see Lamar Miller get loose for 66 and a touchdown instead of it being 33, and being tackled by that safety. I want to see Lamar Miller get loose. But other than that, he's doing everything you could ask him to do in Miami right now. He's a guy that I like. And I'm going to say this, and I don't want to sound like Captain Obvious here when I say this, but listen, just hear me out. When the Dolphins are healthy, relatively healthy, and the offensive line protects Ryan Tannehill, this is a playoff football team. Let me say it one more time. When the Dolphins are relatively healthy and the offensive line protects Ryan Tannehill, this is a playoff football team. Now you say to yourself, you can say that for, just about every team in the league. No, you can't. Here's why. Every team, when healthy, isn't a talented football team. I mean, that's the end of the discussion right there. The Oakland Raiders can be 100% healthy. They're not a playoff team. You look at a team like the Jacksonville Jaguars, 100% healthy, not a postseason football team. Tennessee Titans, same thing. I can go down the list, on and on and on. Every team in this league is not a playoff team when healthy, when they protect their quarterback. This Dolphins team is. If you look at their losses this season, the games where you think they should have won or maybe they could have played better, it all starts up front with this team not protecting Ryan Tannehill. That loss to Baltimore, he was assaulted. You lose that game 28-13. You look at some of those closer games. You know, when Charles Clay is healthy, this offense is different. When Brandon Gibson is healthy, this offense is different. When everybody is healthy and involved in this offense, and the offensive line protects up front, there are so many weapons here for Tannehill to use, whether it's Hartline, or it's Gibson, or it's 60 Minutes, or it's Deion Sims who has emerged of late. Charles Clay, there's so many guys you can get the football to. Lamar Miller out of the backfield. I like the addition of LaMichael James. He'll help you down the road. This is a talented football team. When healthy, when the offensive line gives Tannehill adequate time, I think they can play with just about anybody in this league. We saw them go toe-to-toe with Denver in Denver, have them on the ropes, let them off the hook. We saw them go toe-to-toe, beat New England, then lose to them. Had them literally in the third quarter at halftime. They were down 14-13 and then had a meltdown in the second half. This is a team that can play with some of the best in the league when healthy, when the offensive line protects. When they don't protect Tannehill, when he doesn't have time, he makes mistakes. You have turnovers, and this team loses football games. This is a team you were up 10-0 versus the Raiders. You had them right where you wanted them, and then everything fell apart because the protection didn't hold up. And so you had Green Bay on the ropes. You had Detroit on the ropes. These are all teams that we consider among the best in the league. You went toe-to-toe with them. If you're just healthy, if Ryan Tannehill is protected, this team is legit. And so they started to protect up front, and Tannehill started going to work. He got surgical with the football. The running game started to pick up. Everything started to fall into place. And by the time we got to halftime, this was a 14-10 football game, and you were right back where you needed to be to feel like, all right, we can strike in this game. And then this was such a fun game, especially the second half, especially the fourth quarter, because we go to the fourth quarter, and it's 17-14 in this game, and you're saying to yourself, all right, well, what's about to happen? And I believe the score was at halftime, it might have been 17-7. The Vikings were up at the half. And going into the fourth quarter, it was 14-17. Vikings were up. Dolphins were on the move. They get a touchdown to take the lead 21-17. And then all hell sort of broke loose in the game. Vikings get a field goal, make it 21-20. Then the Dolphins go down the field, get a touchdown, make it 28-20. And then you're thinking, all right, I know this is what I was thinking. Dolphins are about to run away with this game. They're up 8. They got the momentum. You know, we're halfway through the fourth quarter. This thing is just about over. And then Teddy Bridgewater puts together one of these drives where you say, man, this kid gets it. He understands what it's going to take for his team to win. It was not a pretty drive, but it was what the team needed at the time. They were aided by penalties and things of that nature, but he got them in the end zone. That's the most important part. And then the 2-point conversion, there were like 18 penalties that allowed them to get like 5 different tries, and then finally Matt Asiata gets in the end zone on the 2-point conversion to tie the game up at 28. Then you're thinking, all right, Dolphins need to respond, and literally they get a personal foul penalty on the 2-point conversion to the Dolphins, and so that gives the Vikings the opportunity to do a pop-up kick, which is fielded by the rookie Jarvis Landry at the goal line. He falls down trying to cut back, fumbles the football at literally the 7-yard line. It's recovered by the Vikings. They run the ball. Matt Asiata runs the football into the end zone on the very next play. And so in the span of 14 seconds, you're talking about going from an 8-point Dolphins lead to a 7-point Dolphins deficit at 35-28. And I'm saying to myself, what the hell just happened? Again, not watching the game live, just watching the bottom line and seeing the score go across the bottom of the screen. I'm asking myself, what the hell just happened? You were just up 8. How are you down 7? How did they score 15 points that quick? So to watch the game and see what happened was hilarious. So now I'm saying to myself, all right, Miami, you got to step up. You got about 5 minutes left in this game. I need you to go down the field, tie this game up, and find a way to win. And that's exactly what they did. Tannehill took his team down the field. They used penalties. They used whatever they had to do to get in the end zone. A couple of questionable calls. I don't know if I agreed necessarily with the pass interference in the end zone or not. Look, he gave his team a chance. He threw the football to Mike Wallace. They got the call, puts the ball at the 1. They end up getting in the end zone. They tie the game up. Then they get a stop, and this was a huge play of the game. They get a stop deep in Vikings territory. So Vikings go 3 and out essentially from deep in their own territory. And then you get a block by rookie Terrence Fede of a punt, gives the and it goes out in the back of the end zone for a safety, gives the Dolphins a 2-point lead. Dolphins recover, sort of an onside kick, and then they're able to run out the clock and win the game 37-35. Huge win for the Dolphins. Again, even though you're eliminated from postseason contention as the Pittsburgh Steelers took care of business versus the Kansas City Chiefs, this was a big win. You needed to have this win, and it was such a big win that Joe Philbin has been given the dreaded, but at least in this case, you want this, the extra year of reprieve. He'll be back next season as Dolphins head coach. And so that's good to see because this team is starting to play good football. They understand what Joe Philbin. You feel like they're on the cusp of something. Now, this is the second year in a row they've been in a position to strike and make the postseason, and they haven't. But you're hoping that they're starting to learn what it's going to take for them to take that next step. I'm not sure if they have learned or not, but this is a big win because this is a game that last year they probably would have lost. They found a way to get it done. I love the way Ryan Tannehill is maturing as a quarterback, and I like the way this team is coming together. Like I said, this is a very talented football team. You went toe-to-toe with the best of them in the league, and you just come up short just about every time. Maybe next year, some of those losses that were close, that were nail-biters, will turn into victories, and that'll be the difference between you ending the season at 9-7 and maybe you ending the season at 11-5 and getting a postseason berth. We'll see. But big win at home versus the Minnesota Vikings, 37-35 for the Miami Dolphins. Gets them to 8-7 on the season. Gives them a chance to finish the season over 500 with a win versus the Jets at home in Week 17 for the Minnesota Vikings. This is a tough loss. You fought with a really good Dolphins football team. Had them on the ropes. You just couldn't get it done. There's still some pieces you're missing. What's going on with Cordero Patterson? What's going on there? What are you doing with this guy? Obviously, you don't know what to do with him. If you're not going to use him, why don't you trade him? Why don't you get something for him? He's a first-round pick. Don't sit there and let him rot away on your bench. If you're not going to use him, obviously you don't have a game plan with him involved in it. You have a lot of guys that you like. He's not one of them on the offensive side of the football. He's electric on special teams, but because he's not playing offensively, I don't think he's there mentally on special teams either. And that's why you haven't seen him make a big play this year, because he's not engaged mentally on special teams, because he's not getting enough offensive touches. Do something with this kid. If you're not going to use him, let somebody else use him. Get something for him. He's a talented football player that can make big plays. If you're not going to use him, allow someone else to use him, and you get something back in return for him. To me, that's the one thing, the one gripe I have with this team right now is that Cordero Patterson is too talented of a football player to not touch the football 5 to 10 times in any given game, and he's not even being involved in the offense. And you're getting it done offensively, so it's not like the offense is struggling without his presence. It's just that you're not using him, and I feel like that's a waste. You need to do something with him. But other than that, Teddy Bridgewater is coming of age. I just love watching him play football. I think he's going to be one of the young budding stars in the league at the quarterback position if he continues on the path that he is on. I like Matt Asiata. That guy is a bull. I mean, you just put him in the game and you say, look, I need 3 yards. He'll get you 4. And I like the way that this defense is playing. You need to have, I think, 1 or 2 more impact players on the defensive side of the football. That would be nice. But Harrison Smith, and Anthony Barr, when healthy, are guys that you can build around. Everson Griffin is a monster. So there are pieces there that I like. There's a lot to like about this Vikings team. Now it's all about growing together and everybody getting better as a team together and gelling. Now you know what your head coach Mike Zimmer is looking for. Hopefully you'll be able to grow from this experience this year and see if you can't get better. Finish the season on a high note. You got Chicago at home. Take care of the Chicago Bears and see if you can't finish up this season at 7-9. That's going to do it for Vikings and Dolphins. I thank you for joining me. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the lab. And come back and join me as I continue to break down week number 16 in the National Football League. See you in a bit.